Welcome back to another explainer. Today, we're unpacking a massive theme shaping India right now: preparation. We're going to journey together all the way from macroeconomics, navigate through some impending climate challenges, check out sweeping infrastructure shifts, and finally land right at the grassroots reality of village-level governance. It's a fascinating look at the data that is really defining the country's trajectory.
You know that old Benjamin Franklin quote, "By failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail"? Yeah, it's a bit of a cliche, but honestly, it is literally the defining reality for India right now. As we dig into today's data, you'll see a country actively bracing for upcoming tests, some economic, some environmental, and some infrastructural. It's pretty incredible to watch a nation recognize its vulnerabilities and attempt to engineer real, lasting resilience.
So here's our roadmap for today. First, we'll test India's economic resilience. Then, brace for deficient monsoons, look at accelerating the EV transition, and finally wrap up with data-driven grassroots governance. Let's dive right in.
All right, part 1, testing economic resilience by decoding the latest GDP updates.
So, the latest data shows some serious economic muscle, but there are definitely some underlying worries. The provisional estimate for GDP growth in 2025-26, a very solid 7.7%. And honestly, that's incredibly resilient considering the massive supply chain headaches from the war in Iran. Now, a quick refresher on how we actually measure this. GDP is basically the total value of everything. It's consumption plus investment plus government expenditure plus exports minus imports. The really good news here? Both household consumption, that C, and investment activity, the I, actually grew faster this year than they did last year.
But here's the catch, and where that preparation piece really kicks in. The growth is definitely not balanced. Look at this glaring contrast. We're seeing massive, double-digit growth in manufacturing and services. Services alone make up over 54% of total gross value added now. But then you look at agriculture. Growth there has slammed the brakes, slowing down to a worrying 3%. When you remember that agriculture employs by far the largest chunk of the population, a drop to under 20% of the value-added share, that is a huge structural gap. Policymakers literally have to be incredibly agile right now to handle this.
To actually understand these wild shifts, the government is totally revamping its measurement tools. They've updated the base year to 2022-23, getting us past those weird COVID anomalies, and they are bringing in high-frequency data. So out with the old proxy indicators and in with the new. They're using GST collections to cross-validate, the eValhan portal to track real road transport consumption, the public financial management system for real-time government spending, and actual annual surveys to gauge how dynamic the household sector is. It's like upgrading from standard definition to 4K to see exactly what the economy is doing.
Moving on to part 2, bracing for deficient monsoons and zooming in on that agricultural weakness.
We just talked about agriculture slumping at 3%, right? Well, that makes the upcoming environmental challenges pretty terrifying. Just look at this single number, 90%. The India Meteorological Department predicts seasonal rainfall will be just 90% of the long period average. And get this, they've stated there's a staggering 60% probability of an outright deficient year. A 60% chance. That is the most pessimistic preseason call we've seen in a decade. Now, the monsoon did hit Kerala late, but a late start isn't the real disaster. The real danger? The distribution. Those sudden, long dry spells where newly sown crops just completely dry out.
Because they know this is coming, preparation isn't just an option, it is absolute survival. The game plan here is intense. We're talking about activating the agriculture, Jal Shakti, and consumer affairs ministries on a literal war footing. They need to get advisories out immediately, steering farmers away from super thirsty crops like paddy and pushing them towards short-duration pulses, oilseeds, and millets. Groundwater and reservoir management has to be strictly disciplined. And crop insurance? That needs to be ready to go, like yesterday. Why is this such a big deal? Because this week monsoon is hitting a farm economy where things like nutrients and fuel are already incredibly scarce and expensive. Hoping for the best is great, but man, they absolutely have to prepare for the worst.
Okay. Part 3, accelerating the EV transition, focusing on long-term infrastructure. So while dealing with the monsoon is all about immediate crisis management, preparing for the future also means building sustainable long-term infrastructure. And here, the country is putting the pedal to the metal on the electric vehicle transition through the new flagship PM eDrive scheme. To put this massive 10,900 crore rupee national budget into perspective, just look at what's happening in Delhi.
The government is planning to roll out 2,800 air-conditioned low-floor electric buses specifically under this scheme. This isn't just a green initiative to cut emissions, it's a total game changer for public transport, especially for connecting underserved areas on the outskirts of the city.
And honestly, the strategy for getting everyday people to adopt EVs is pretty brilliant. The scheme offers a demand incentive capped at 15% of the factory price. But take a close look at the caps here. You'll see that eligibility is strictly limited to two-wheelers under 1.5 lakh rupees and three-wheelers under 2.5 lakh. So what's the takeaway? They are laser-focused on mass market adoption. They're not out here subsidizing luxury cars. Throw in the massive goal of setting up 72,300 public fast chargers across cities and highways, and you can see a very deliberate preparation for a homegrown EV manufacturing ecosystem. It perfectly aligns with the whole Atmanirbhar Bharat vision.
Which brings us to our final section, Part 4, Data-Driven Grassroots Governance and the Panchayat Advancement Index. Let's pull back from the big national economic data and flashy EV chargers and zoom all the way down to the absolute bedrock of the country, grassroots rural administration. Because if you really want to prepare for the future, you need to know exactly what's happening in every single village. The Ministry of Panchayati Raj built this incredible data-driven platform called the Panchayat Advancement Index, and it actually just bagged the Gold Award at the National Awards for E-Governance 2026. These awards highlight systems that beautifully blend digital tech with actual public welfare. So you might be wondering, what exactly makes this index such a big deal?
Well, it's the sheer, mind-boggling analytical scale of the whole thing. The PAYE 2.0 evaluates more than 6 lakh gram panchayats across India. It crunches over 150 indicators and 230 distinct data points for every single one. Think about that for a second. That is a colossal amount of data flowing up from the village level every single day. It basically serves as a massive, standardized report card on one unified digital dashboard. By judging these rural bodies on hard, undeniable data, it completely strips away all the subjective guesswork and political bias. The whole idea is to spark real competitive federalism right down at the very grassroots.
But what are those 230 data points actually tracking? Well, they align perfectly with the Localization of Sustainable Development Goals, or LSDGs. These Gram Panchayats are practically competing to prove they are poverty-free, healthy, child-friendly, water-sufficient, and clean and green. And this, right here, is how a country actually prepares for tomorrow. By pinpointing the exact gaps in rural infrastructure, states can channel their development funds efficiently to where they are genuinely needed, instead of just blindly throwing money at the wall and hoping something sticks. And that brings us right back to where we started, resilience and preparation. We've looked at the GDP updates, the EV infrastructure push, and this incredible data tracking at the village level. But ultimately, the environment is going to be the biggest test. So I want to leave you with a really thought-provoking question straight from our sources. Examine the impact of monsoon variability on Indian agriculture. Suggest measures to enhance resilience against erratic rainfall patterns. Think about everything we just unpacked today. How does having sharper data, stronger infrastructure, and better economic buffers all tie together to solve that exact problem? How do you prepare over 1 billion people for the totally unpredictable? Take some time to ponder that one. Keep learning, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.